Lara Lawson's earliest memories were filled with warmth and laughter. Growing up in a small, tight-knit community, she lived with her loving parents and little brother, Tommy, in a cozy house on Maple Street. Her mother's chocolate chip cookies were legendary, and her father's boisterous laugh was infectious. But as Lara entered middle school, her childhood innocence began to fade. She became a target for a group of influential classmates led by Jessica, the quintessential queen bee. At first, it was just snide comments about her thrift store clothes or her hair, but the bullying quickly escalated. Lara, once confident and full of life, found herself shrinking away, trying to become invisible. Jessica's parents were wealthy, and she used their status to assert dominance. Her friends, Amanda and Claire, joined in the taunts and jeers, mocking Lara during gym class and spreading cruel rumors. Lara's safe haven was her family, but even at home, she couldn't completely escape the torment. One day, the bullying reached a new level. Lara was cornered in the bathroom by Jessica and her cronies. They pushed her, called her names, and threw her books into the toilet. Lara felt tears stinging her eyes but refused to cry in front of them. After they left, she locked herself in a stall and let the sobs she'd been holding in all day finally escape. At home, her father noticed her red eyes and asked what was wrong. She almost told him everything but stopped herself. She didn't want to seem weak. She lied, saying she was just tired from studying. But something inside Lara began to change that day. The constant torment was shaping her in ways her bullies could never imagine. She was starting to understand the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for oneself. She vowed silently to herself that she would not let them break her. She would find a way to turn her pain into strength, even if she didn't know how just yet. The seeds of determination were planted in Lara's heart, and though the journey ahead was fraught with challenges, she was unknowingly preparing for the fight of her life. Lara Lawson walked into 7th grade with a mix of excitement and nerves. She wore her favorite green sweater, the one her grandmother had knitted for her last Christmas, and a pair of jeans that were slightly too long. As she approached her locker, she noticed a group of girls whispering and pointing in her direction. Lara's heart sank, but she kept her head high and tried to ignore them. The bullying began subtly. At first, it was just sarcastic comments about her hair or her clothes. "Nice sweater. Did your grandma make it?" Jessica sneered one morning, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The other girls laughed, and Lara's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She wanted to disappear, to become invisible. As the weeks passed, the bullying intensified. Jessica and her friends would bump into Lara in the hallways, causing her to drop her books. They laughed as they watched her scramble to pick them up, murmuring insults that Lara tried her best to ignore. Each day, a little more of Lara's confidence eroded. Lunchtimes were the worst. Lara would find a quiet corner to eat alone, but even then, she couldn't escape the torment. Jessica's group would walk by, making loud, cruel comments. Who would want to sit with her? She's such a loser, one of them would say, ensuring Lara heard every word. Lara forced herself to keep eating, swallowing not just her food, but also her pride and her tears. At home, Lara did her best to hide the pain. She didn't want her parents to worry. Her mother, ever perceptive, asked if everything was okay at school. Lara mustered a smile and said yes, convincing herself that she could handle it on her own. But each night, as she lay in bed, the day's events would replay in her mind, and the tears would come. One Friday afternoon, after a particularly brutal week, Lara found herself dreading the walk home. She waited until the halls were nearly empty before leaving her last class. As she turned a corner, she was met with Jessica and her friends, blocking her path. "Going somewhere, freak?" Jessica taunted, pushing Lara against the lockers. The others joined in, shoving her, pulling at her hair, and calling her names. Lara felt a surge of panic and tried to push back, but she was outnumbered. The ordeal lasted only a few minutes, but to Lara, it felt like an eternity. When they finally walked away, laughing, Lara slid to the floor, her body shaking with silent sobs. She waited until she was sure they were gone before picking herself up and slowly making her way home. Her sweater was torn, her hair a mess, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional wounds. That night, Lara stared at her reflection in the mirror. She saw the tired eyes of a girl who was fighting a battle no one else could see. She realized she couldn't keep living like this. Something had to change. The resolve she had felt before was now mixed with a burning need for justice. She didn't know how she would do it, but Lara promised herself that she would find a way to fight back. Laura Lawson had always been a friendly, outgoing girl, but the relentless bullying was isolating her, making it hard to maintain relationships. There were a few friends who tried to stand by her, but the fear of becoming targets themselves often kept them at a distance. Emily was one of the few who stuck around. She had been Lara's best friend since kindergarten, and despite the growing pressure from their peers, she tried her best to support Lara. "Ignore them," she would say, squeezing Lara's hand reassuringly. "They're just jealous because you're different." But even Emily's presence couldn't always shield Lara from the cruelty of their classmates. Jessica's best friend, Amanda, was just as bad, if not worse. She had a knack for spreading rumors, and it wasn't long before whispers about Lara filled the school. "Did you hear? Lara's family is so poor they can't even afford new clothes," Amanda would say, ensuring the rumors spread like wildfire. The lies hurt, but what hurt more was seeing classmates she had known for years turn their backs on her, believing every false word. During gym class, Lara often found herself alone, trying to avoid the watchful eyes of Jessica and her gang. One day, as they were playing dodgeball, Jessica and Amanda decided to make Lara their main target. They threw the ball with such force and precision that Lara barely had time to react. Each hit felt like a physical manifestation of their hatred. The gym teacher, oblivious to the malicious intent, simply urged Lara to be more agile. The cafeteria was no better. Lunchtime should have been a respite, a chance to relax and recharge. Instead, it became another battleground. Jessica and her friends would snicker and point, making loud, mocking comments that echoed through the room. Lara tried to find solace by sitting with Emily, but even Emily's company couldn't drown out the jeers and laughter. One afternoon, after a particularly brutal day, Lara found a note stuffed into her locker. It was from Emily, apologizing for not being able to sit with her at lunch anymore. "I'm sorry, Lara. They're starting to come after me too. I just can't handle it. Please understand." The words stung, but Lara couldn't blame her friend. Emily had her own battles to fight. Without Emily by her side, the days grew even darker. Lara felt like she was drowning, barely able to keep her head above water. The loneliness was crushing, but it also began to fuel something deep within her. She started to observe her tormentors more closely, noticing their weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Jessica might have been the queen bee, but even queens have their flaws. Lara found unexpected allies in places she hadn't considered before. Mrs. Thompson, the school librarian, noticed Lara's frequent visits and quiet demeanor. One day, she pulled Lara aside. "I've seen how those girls treat you, Lara. It's not right. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." Her kindness was a small light in the darkness, giving Lara a glimmer of hope. As the days turned into weeks, Lara's resilience began to take shape. She started to understand that her strength didn't come from having allies or friends, but from within herself. The bullying wasn't going to stop overnight, and she couldn't change her tormentors, but she could change how she responded. She could endure, she could survive, and most importantly, she could plan. The day that shattered Lara Lawson's already fragile world began like any other. She walked into school with her head down, hoping to get through the day without attracting too much attention. But Jessica and her clique had other plans. As Lara approached her locker, she noticed a crowd gathering around. Her heart sank. This was never a good sign. Scrawled across her locker in bright red paint were the words, "Loser" and "Freak." The laughter and whispers that followed felt like knives piercing her skin. Jessica stood nearby, a smug smile on her face, arms crossed as if she had just accomplished something grand. Lara's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of them. Trying to ignore the jeers, Lara opened her locker, only to have a torrent of garbage spill out. Rotten food, crumpled papers, and foul-smelling liquids cascaded onto the floor, splashing onto her shoes and clothes. The crowd erupted in laughter, and Lara's vision blurred with tears of humiliation. She could hear Jessica's voice cutting through the noise. "Maybe you should clean up your life, Lara. It's starting to stink just like you." Lara's hands shook as she tried to gather her things, but it was impossible. Every attempt to clean up only made the mess worse. She felt utterly defeated, a wave of despair washing over her. It was then that Mrs. Thompson, the school librarian, appeared. She had been passing by and witnessed the scene. "All right, that's enough," she shouted, her voice firm and commanding. The crowd quickly dispersed, but the damage was already done. Mrs. Thompson helped Lara to her feet, guiding her to the nearest bathroom. "Take your time, clean yourself up. I'll take care of this," she said softly. Lara nodded, unable to find her voice. In the bathroom, she looked at her reflection, seeing the tears streaking down her face and the mess clinging to her clothes. She let out a choked sob, the reality of her situation crashing down on her. Lara stayed in the bathroom for what felt like hours, the anger and sadness swirling inside her like a storm. She thought about all the times she had tried to ignore the bullying, to brush it off, hoping it would stop, but it never did. It only got worse. She realized then that she couldn't continue to be a passive victim. Something had to change. The final straw came later that day in gym class. Lara was still reeling from the morning's events, trying to stay invisible. But Jessica wasn't finished. During a game of soccer, Jessica tripped Lara, sending her sprawling to the ground. "Watch where you're going, freak," she sneered. The gym teacher, as usual, did nothing, chalking it up to an accident. But this time, Lara couldn't just brush it off. As she lay on the ground, dirt and grass staining her clothes, something inside her snapped. She got to her feet, her eyes blazing with a new fire. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the gym. Everyone stopped, stunned by her outburst. Even Jessica looked taken aback. Lara stood tall, facing Jessica. "I'm done letting you treat me like this. You think you're so powerful, but you're just a coward hiding behind your friends. One day, you'll see what real strength looks like." She didn't wait for a response. She walked out of the gym, leaving Jessica and everyone else in stunned silence. As she left the school that day, Lara felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear, yes, but also a sense of liberation. She had stood up for herself, and though it was just the beginning, it felt like a victory. Lara knew she had a long road ahead, but she was no longer the same girl who let others walk all over her. She had reached her breaking point, and now there was no turning back. Lara Lawson's outburst in the gym marked a turning point. As she walked home that day, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. She felt a newfound strength, but also a deep-seated anger. She couldn't let Jessica and her gang continue to have power over her life. She needed a plan. That evening, Lara sat at her desk, a notebook open in front of her. She began to jot down her thoughts, trying to make sense of the chaos in her mind. She wrote about the pain, the humiliation, and the fear, but she also wrote about her dreams and her determination to change her situation. As the pages filled, a sense of clarity emerged. She realized that she didn't just want to survive, she wanted justice. Lara decided she needed to turn her pain into something constructive. She spent hours researching online, reading about self-defense, resilience, and strategies to deal with bullies. She stumbled upon stories of people who had faced similar situations and had come out stronger. Their stories inspired her and gave her hope. One story in particular stood out. It was about a woman who had been bullied in school but had become a successful lawyer, fighting for the rights of those who couldn't defend themselves. Lara felt a spark of inspiration. She realized that the law could be a powerful tool for justice. She decided that she would become a lawyer, not just to protect herself, but to help others who were suffering like she was. The next day at school, Lara felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. She started paying closer attention in her classes, especially in subjects like history and government. She knew that understanding the law and how systems worked would be crucial for her future. Her teachers noticed the change and began to encourage her, offering extra help and resources. Lara also decided to take up self-defense classes. She found a local community center that offered lessons in the evenings. The first class was intimidating, but she pushed through, fueled by her determination. The physical exercise was cathartic, helping her release some of the pent-up anger and frustration. More importantly, it gave her confidence. She started to walk a little taller, and her sense of fear began to diminish. Meanwhile, Jessica and her gang continued their torment, but Lara responded differently now. Instead of shrinking away, she stood her ground. When they tried to mock her, she met their eyes and didn't look away. She could see the confusion in Jessica's face, the uncertainty. Lara knew she was changing the dynamic, even if it was just a small shift. One afternoon, while walking home, Lara saw Mrs. Thompson outside the school. The librarian waved her over and asked how she was doing. Lara felt a surge of gratitude and opened up about her plans. She told Mrs. Thompson about her goal to become a lawyer and how she was taking self-defense classes. Mrs. Thompson listened intently, her eyes shining with pride. "Lara, you have a strength within you that not many people have. Keep going, and don't let anyone dim your light," she said, giving Lara a tight hug. As weeks turned into months, Lara continued to work on her plan. She studied hard, trained regularly, and kept her eye on the future. The bullying didn't stop completely, but Lara felt more equipped to handle it. She had found a sense of control and purpose that kept her going. Lara's decision to fight back wasn't just about confronting her bullies. It was about reclaiming her life and her sense of self-worth. She was no longer the scared girl trying to disappear. She was Lara Lawson, a girl with a plan, a girl with a future, and she was just getting started. High school was supposed to be a fresh start, but for Lara Lawson, it felt like an extended sentence. Jessica and her gang still held their influence, but Lara had changed. She was no longer the meek girl they could easily intimidate. Over the summer, Lara had immersed herself in books about psychology, strategy, and law. She was building an arsenal of knowledge, silently transforming herself into a force to be reckoned with. Lara spent hours in the library, her sanctuary from the chaos of high school life. She studied diligently, not just for her classes, but also to understand the human psyche. She wanted to know what made people like Jessica tick, what drove them to inflict pain on others. The more she learned, the more she saw through the facade of confidence that bullies like Jessica projected. Self-defense classes became a crucial part of her routine. Each session left her feeling more powerful and in control. She practiced tirelessly, learning not just the physical moves, but also the mental discipline that came with martial arts. Her instructor, Mr. Delgado, noticed her dedication and took her under his wing, offering extra training and guidance. "Remember, Lara," he would say, "the strongest weapon you have is your mind." Lara also found solace in running. Every morning before school, she would lace up her sneakers and hit the pavement. The rhythmic pounding of her feet against the ground was therapeutic, clearing her mind and strengthening her body. The sunrise runs became her ritual, a reminder that each day was a new opportunity to grow stronger. Despite her quiet transformation, Lara kept a low profile at school. She didn't seek out confrontation, but she no longer shied away from it either. When Jessica and her friends tried to provoke her, she met their taunts with a calm, unwavering gaze. This new Lara unsettled them. They couldn't understand why their words no longer had the same effect. One day, during lunch, Lara overheard Jessica bragging about an upcoming party at her house. An idea began to form in Lara's mind. She realized that she didn't need to confront Jessica directly to weaken her influence. Information was power, and Lara had become very good at gathering it. She started listening more carefully, piecing together snippets of conversations and observing the dynamics within Jessica's clique. Lara began to notice cracks in Jessica's perfect veneer. She saw the way Amanda would roll her eyes when Jessica wasn't looking, or how some of the other girls seemed reluctant to follow her lead. Lara kept this knowledge to herself, storing it away for the right moment. She knew that Jessica's power relied on fear and control, and if she could exploit the fractures within the group, she could diminish Jessica's hold over the school. Outside of school, Lara continued to hone her skills. She volunteered at a local legal aid clinic, shadowing lawyers and learning the intricacies of the legal system. The work was challenging, but it fueled her desire to fight for justice. She saw firsthand the impact of the law on people's lives and how it could be used to protect the vulnerable. Lara's relationship with her family also strengthened. She finally confided in her parents about the bullying she had endured. They were devastated but proud of the steps she had taken to empower herself. Her father built a small practice area in the backyard where Lara could train, and her mother became her biggest cheerleader, always ready with words of encouragement and support. As the months passed, Lara's transformation continued. She was no longer just surviving high school. She was strategizing, preparing for the battles ahead. Her grades improved, her confidence soared, and she began to see a future where she could make a real difference. The silent transformation was almost complete. Lara was ready to step out of the shadows and begin her journey toward justice. The day Lara Lawson left her hometown of Willow Creek was filled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She had spent months preparing for this moment, applying to colleges far from the familiar streets where she had endured so much pain. When the acceptance letter from Crestwood University arrived, it felt like the first tangible step toward a new beginning. Packing up her room was an emotional ordeal. Every item she placed in a box carried memories of her childhood, both good and bad. Her parents helped her, their pride mingling with the bittersweet realization that their little girl was growing up and leaving the nest. "You're going to do amazing things, Lara," her mother said, hugging her tightly. Her father, ever the practical one, loaded her belongings into the car, giving her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. As the car pulled out of the driveway, Lara took one last look at the house she had grown up in. It was a modest home, full of warmth and love, but also the place where she had cried herself to sleep too many times to count. She whispered a silent goodbye, ready to leave behind the ghosts of her past. The drive to Crestwood was long, giving Lara plenty of time to think about what lay ahead. She had chosen Crestwood for its strong pre-law program and its distance from Willow Creek. It was a chance to start fresh, to reinvent herself away from the shadow of Jessica and her gang. Lara was determined to succeed, to prove to herself and to everyone who had ever doubted her that she was capable of achieving great things. Arriving at Crestwood, Lara felt a rush of anticipation. The campus was beautiful, with sprawling lawns and historic buildings that exuded a sense of possibility. She moved into her dorm room, meeting her roommate, Emma, who was friendly and enthusiastic. They quickly bonded over their shared excitement and nervousness about starting college. Classes began, and Lara threw herself into her studies with a passion. She attended every lecture, participated in discussions, and sought out extra readings. Her professors noticed her dedication, often praising her insightful contributions. Lara felt herself growing intellectually, her mind expanding with new ideas and perspectives. But college wasn't just about academics. Lara joined the debate team, channeling her desire for justice into powerful arguments and honing her public speaking skills. She made new friends, people who saw her for who she truly was, not the girl who had been bullied in high school. For the first time in a long time, Lara felt like she belonged. Despite the new surroundings and fresh start, the memories of Willow Creek were never far from Lara's mind. She thought about Jessica and her cronies, wondering if they had changed, if they even remembered the torment they had inflicted. But those thoughts no longer consumed her. Lara was focused on her future, using the past as a driving force rather than an anchor holding her back. One evening, while studying in the library, Lara received a call from Mrs. Thompson, her high school librarian. "I've been thinking about you, Lara. How's college treating you?" she asked. Lara smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude for the woman who had always believed in her. "It's amazing, Mrs. Thompson. I'm learning so much, and I feel like I'm finally on the right path," Lara replied. Mrs. Thompson's voice was warm with pride. "I knew you would be. Keep going, Lara. You're destined for great things." Lara hung up, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She was on a journey that was just beginning, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Crestwood was more than just a school. It was a symbol of her resilience and determination. Leaving Willow Creek had been difficult, but it was necessary for her to grow and to pursue her dreams. As the semesters passed, Lara continued to excel. She applied for internships, gaining hands-on experience in legal settings that fueled her passion for justice. Each step brought her closer to her goal of becoming a lawyer, of using the law to protect and empower those who couldn't fight for themselves. Lara's decision to leave her hometown had been the catalyst for her transformation. At Crestwood, she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. The pain of her past had forged a strength within her that was unbreakable. She was no longer defined by what had happened to her, but by what she was determined to achieve. At Crestwood University, Lara Lawson quickly discovered that the road to becoming a lawyer was both challenging and exhilarating. She immersed herself in her pre-law studies, finding a profound sense of purpose in every lecture, every case study, and every late-night study session in the library. One of her most demanding yet rewarding classes was constitutional law, taught by Professor Randall, a seasoned attorney with a reputation for being tough but fair. Lara admired his intellect and his ability to dissect complex legal issues with ease. She made it her mission to excel in his class, often staying after lectures to ask questions and seek advice. During one such conversation, Professor Randall noticed Lara's dedication. "You have a keen mind, Ms. Lawson," he remarked, his eyes twinkling with approval. "Have you considered applying for an internship? Real-world experience is invaluable in this field." Lara's heart raced with excitement. "I have, but I wasn't sure where to start," she admitted. Professor Randall smiled. "I can recommend a few places. Start with the Legal Aid Clinic downtown. They do incredible work for the community, and I think you'd fit right in." Taking his advice to heart, Lara applied for an internship at the clinic. The day she received her acceptance letter, she felt a surge of accomplishment. This was the next step in her journey, a chance to apply what she had learned in the classroom to real-life situations. Working at the Legal Aid Clinic was an eye-opening experience. Lara met people from all walks of life, each with their own stories of struggle and resilience. She assisted with cases involving tenant rights, domestic abuse, and immigration issues, gaining hands-on experience that textbooks could never provide. The work was tough and often emotionally draining, but it reinforced her desire to fight for justice. One case, in particular, left a lasting impact on her. A single mother, Maria, was facing eviction due to a landlord's neglect and unlawful practices. Maria's story resonated deeply with Lara, reminding her of her own family's struggles. Lara poured her heart into the case, working tirelessly to gather evidence and prepare a compelling argument. The day of the hearing, Lara stood beside Maria in court, her nerves electrified with a mixture of anxiety and determination. She presented the case with clarity and passion, highlighting the injustices Maria had endured. When the judge ruled in their favor, Lara felt an overwhelming sense of triumph. Maria hugged her, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, Lara. You've given us hope," she said. Lara knew then that this was exactly where she was meant to be. Back at the university, Lara's commitment to her studies only grew stronger. She joined the Student Bar Association and participated in mock trials, honing her litigation skills. Her peers began to recognize her as a leader, someone who was not only intelligent but also compassionate and driven by a genuine desire to make a difference. Professor Randall continued to mentor her, offering guidance and encouragement. "You're on the right path, Lara. Keep pushing yourself," he would say. Lara appreciated his support, knowing that having a mentor who believed in her made all the difference. Despite her busy schedule, Lara maintained a strong connection with her family. She called her parents regularly, sharing her experiences and seeking their advice. Her father, proud and supportive, often reminded her of the importance of staying grounded. "Remember why you started this journey, Lara. It's not just about winning cases, but about helping people," he would say. As Lara navigated the complexities of law school and her internship, she also began to reflect more on her past. The memories of Willow Creek and the bullying she had endured were still there, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they served as a reminder of how far she had come and fueled her determination to succeed. Lara's journey at Crestwood was shaping her into the lawyer she aspired to be. She was learning not just the intricacies of the law, but also the importance of empathy, resilience, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Each day brought new challenges and opportunities, and Lara faced them all with the strength and courage she had developed over the years. She was no longer just a student. She was becoming a formidable advocate, ready to take on the world. As Lara Lawson approached her final year at Crestwood University, she had already built a reputation as a passionate and formidable advocate for justice. Her experiences at the Legal Aid Clinic had sharpened her skills and deepened her resolve to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. One chilly autumn morning, Lara received an unexpected email from a prestigious law firm in the city, Marshall & Green. They were impressed by her work at the clinic and her academic excellence, and they wanted to offer her an internship. Lara's heart raced as she read the email, her excitement barely contained. This was a golden opportunity, a chance to gain experience at one of the top law firms in the country. On her first day at Marshall & Green, Lara felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. The office was a sleek, modern building, buzzing with the energy of ambitious lawyers and bustling assistants. She was introduced to her mentor, Evelyn Marshall, a senior partner known for her fierce courtroom presence and dedication to social justice. Evelyn welcomed Lara warmly. "We've heard great things about you, Lara. I'm excited to see what you can do." Lara quickly immersed herself in the work, tackling complex legal issues with the same determination that had driven her throughout her life. She was assigned to a high-profile case involving corporate fraud, working alongside seasoned attorneys who treated her as an equal. The hours were long, and the work was demanding, but Lara thrived under the pressure. One evening, as she was poring over documents in the office, Evelyn approached her. "Lara, I'd like you to prepare the opening statement for our next hearing," she said, handing her a thick file. Lara's eyes widened with both excitement and apprehension. "Are you sure?" she asked. Evelyn smiled. "I have complete confidence in you. You've earned this." Lara spent the next few days meticulously crafting her statement, drawing on everything she had learned. She practiced in front of a mirror, fine-tuning her delivery until it was perfect. The night before the hearing, she barely slept, running through her notes one last time. The day of the hearing arrived, and Lara stood in the courtroom, feeling a familiar mix of anxiety and determination. As she began her opening statement, her voice was steady and clear. She presented the case with conviction, laying out the facts and highlighting the injustices that had been committed. She could see the impact of her words on the jury and felt a surge of confidence. When she finished, Evelyn gave her a nod of approval, and Lara felt a wave of relief and pride. The hearing proceeded, and Lara continued to play a crucial role, assisting with cross-examinations and legal research. Her performance impressed not only her colleagues but also the judge, who praised her thoroughness and eloquence. After the hearing, Evelyn pulled Lara aside. "You did an outstanding job, Lara. You have a bright future ahead of you," she said. Lara beamed, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She knew this was just the beginning of her journey, but it was a significant milestone. Back at Crestwood, Lara's success at Marshall and Green didn't go unnoticed. Her professors and peers lauded her achievements, and she was invited to speak at several student events, sharing her experiences and insights. Lara was more than willing to help others find their path, just as she had. One evening, after a particularly long day, Lara sat in her dorm room, reflecting on her journey. She thought about the scared, bullied girl she had once been and how far she had come. The pain of her past had forged a strength within her that was now propelling her forward. She was no longer running from her past but embracing it as a source of power. As graduation approached, Lara knew that she was ready for whatever came next. The world of law was vast and complex, but she had proven that she could navigate it with skill and integrity. Her time at Crestwood and her experiences at Marshall and Green had prepared her well. She was eager to continue her fight for justice, to stand up for those who needed a voice, and to make a lasting impact in the world. Lara Lawson was no longer just a rising advocate. She was a force to be reckoned with, ready to take on the challenges of her profession with unwavering determination and a heart full of purpose. The future was bright, and Lara was ready to seize it. After graduation, Lara Lawson felt a magnetic pull drawing her back to Willow Creek. She had transformed herself into a confident, capable lawyer, but there was unfinished business in her hometown. The memories of bullying still lingered, not as a source of pain, but as a reminder of why she had embarked on this journey. It was time to face her past and seek justice. Driving into Willow Creek felt surreal. The town looked the same, with its familiar streets and old buildings, but Lara was different. She had spent years away, growing and changing, while the town seemed frozen in time. As she parked her car and stepped onto the sidewalk, she felt a mixture of nostalgia and determination. Her first stop was the family home. Her parents greeted her with open arms, their pride evident in their beaming faces. "Welcome home, Lara," her mother said, hugging her tightly. Her father patted her on the back, saying, "We always knew you'd do great things." Lara smiled, feeling the warmth of their support. She knew she wasn't alone in what she was about to undertake. The next day, Lara visited the local courthouse to offer her services as a public defender. The town's legal system was small, and her return didn't go unnoticed. "Lara Lawson, back from the big city," Judge Harper said, shaking her hand. "We could use someone with your skills around here." Lara felt a surge of satisfaction. She was ready to make a difference. Lara's first case back in Willow Creek was a domestic abuse situation involving a young woman named Sarah. Sarah's story resonated deeply with Lara, reminding her of her own struggles. She worked tirelessly to build a solid defense, spending long hours researching and preparing. In the courtroom, Lara's presence was commanding. She presented the case with passion and precision, fighting for Sarah's rights. When the verdict was delivered in their favor, Lara felt an overwhelming sense of vindication. Sarah hugged her, tears of relief in her eyes. "Thank you, Lara. You saved my life," she said. Lara's resolve to seek justice only grew stronger. Despite her successes, Lara couldn't ignore the presence of her past tormentors. Jessica and her clique were still in town, their influence seemingly undiminished. But Lara was no longer intimidated. She had the law on her side and a mission to fulfill. One evening, while reviewing old case files, Lara stumbled upon something interesting: evidence of corruption within the local government. It was linked to Jessica's father, a prominent figure in the town. Lara knew this was her opportunity. She began to dig deeper, uncovering a web of deceit and abuse of power that reached far beyond what she had initially suspected. The more she uncovered, the more determined she became to bring the truth to light. She filed a formal complaint and started gathering evidence, working meticulously to build a case. As the investigation progressed, Lara received threats and warnings to back off, but she refused to be intimidated. She had faced worse in her life, and she wasn't about to back down now. With the support of her parents and new allies in the town, she pressed on, driven by a relentless pursuit of justice. The day of the trial arrived, and the courtroom was packed. The atmosphere was tense, with townspeople eager to see the outcome. Lara stood before the judge, presenting her case with unwavering confidence. She detailed the corruption, providing irrefutable evidence and compelling testimony. Jessica and her father sat across the room, their expressions a mix of shock and anger. When the verdict was delivered, finding Jessica's father guilty of multiple charges, there was a collective sigh of relief from the townspeople. Lara had done it. She had not only confronted her past, but had also dismantled a corrupt power structure that had plagued Willow Creek for years. The townspeople erupted in applause, and Lara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. In the days that followed, Lara became a local hero. People approached her on the streets, thanking her for her courage and dedication. But for Lara, the true victory was the sense of closure she felt. She had returned to Willow Creek not just to seek justice for herself, but for the entire community. As she stood on the porch of her family home, looking out over the town, Lara knew that her journey was far from over. There were still battles to fight and people to help, but for the first time, she felt truly at peace. She had faced her demons and emerged victorious. And now, she was ready to continue her mission, armed with the knowledge that she could make a real difference in the world. Lara Lawson's victory in the courtroom had sent shockwaves through Willow Creek, but she knew that her work was far from over. The corruption she had exposed was just the tip of the iceberg, and she was determined to dig deeper. With the town's support behind her, Lara embarked on a meticulous investigation to uncover the full extent of the corruption that had plagued her hometown. Lara set up a small office in the town's old library, where she spent countless hours poring over documents, financial records, and legal files. She enlisted the help of local activists and journalists, forming a dedicated team committed to uncovering the truth. Together, they worked tirelessly, piecing together a complex puzzle that revealed a web of deceit, bribery, and fraud. One evening, as Lara was sifting through a particularly dense stack of papers, she found a series of suspicious transactions that linked several local businesses to Jessica's father, Richard Caldwell. The transactions were cleverly disguised, but Lara's keen eye for detail picked up on the anomalies. She knew she had found a crucial piece of evidence. Lara shared her findings with her team, and they began to trace the money trail. The deeper they dug, the more they uncovered. It became clear that Richard Caldwell had been using his position to funnel money into personal accounts and illicit ventures, all while manipulating town contracts to benefit his allies. The scale of the corruption was staggering. As Lara continued her investigation, she encountered numerous obstacles. Key witnesses were reluctant to come forward, fearing retaliation. Records were missing or incomplete, and there were constant attempts to discredit her work. But Lara was undeterred. She knew that the truth was within reach, and she wasn't about to let anything stand in her way. One day, while interviewing a former town employee, Lara stumbled upon a critical lead. The employee, an accountant named Daniel, revealed that he had been coerced into falsifying financial records under threat of losing his job. Daniel provided Lara with a hidden stash of documents he had kept as insurance, containing damning evidence against Richard Caldwell and his associates. With this new evidence, Lara and her team intensified their efforts. They meticulously documented every transaction, every lie, and every abuse of power. The case they were building was solid, and they knew it would hold up in court. But they also understood the danger they were facing. Caldwell and his cronies would stop at nothing to protect themselves. As the investigation progressed, Lara began receiving anonymous threats, phone calls, letters, and even a brick through her office window with a menacing note attached. "Stop now or face the consequences." Lara's parents were worried, urging her to be careful, but Lara's resolve only grew stronger. She wasn't just fighting for justice, she was fighting for the soul of her hometown. One night, as Lara was working late, she heard a noise outside her office. She peered out the window and saw a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness. Her heart pounded, but she didn't back down. She grabbed her phone and dialed the police, reporting the suspicious activity. The figure disappeared into the night, but the message was clear: Lara was being watched. Despite the intimidation tactics Lara Lara pressed on. She knew that bringing down Richard Caldwell would require more than just evidence. It would require a public outcry. She and her team began to organize community meetings, sharing their findings with the townspeople and rallying them to the cause. The response was overwhelming. People were outraged, demanding accountability and justice. Finally, the day came to present their case to the district attorney. Lara stood before him, laying out the evidence with confidence and clarity. The district attorney was impressed by the thoroughness of their investigation and agreed to pursue charges against Richard Caldwell and his accomplices. The trial was a media sensation, drawing attention from all over the state. Lara testified, presenting the mountain of evidence they had collected. She faced intense cross-examination, but her preparation and conviction never wavered. As the trial progressed, it became clear that the corruption ran deep, touching nearly every aspect of the town's governance. When the verdict was delivered, finding Richard Caldwell guilty on multiple counts, there was a collective sigh of relief from the townspeople. Justice had been served, and the grip of corruption on Willow Creek was finally broken. Lara had not only redeemed her hometown, but had also proven that one person, with determination and integrity, could make a profound difference. In the aftermath of the trial, Lara's name became synonymous with justice and resilience. She continued her work, advocating for transparency and accountability in local government. Willow Creek began to heal, slowly rebuilding its trust in leadership and looking toward a brighter future. For Lara, the investigation had been more than just a quest for justice. It had been a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. She had faced her fears, confronted her past, and emerged stronger than ever. And as she looked out over her hometown, she knew that this was just the beginning of her lifelong mission to fight for what was right. Lara Lawson knew that taking down Richard Caldwell had shaken the foundations of Willow Creek, but she also knew that the battle was far from over. The corruption she had uncovered had roots that extended deep into the town's fabric, and she was determined to expose every last thread. Her next target was Amanda Miller, one of Jessica's closest allies in their high school days and now a prominent businesswoman with suspicious ties to the former corrupt administration. Lara had kept a close eye on Amanda since her return to Willow Creek. She had noticed a pattern of questionable business deals and under-the-table arrangements that pointed to a continuation of the corrupt practices Caldwell had instituted. Lara decided it was time to confront Amanda directly. The opportunity came when Lara learned that Amanda would be attending a charity gala at the town's most prestigious hotel. Lara secured an invitation, knowing that this would be her chance to face Amanda in a public setting where the influential citizens of Willow Creek would be watching. The night of the gala, Lara dressed in a sleek, black dress that exuded confidence and authority. She arrived at the hotel, mingling with the guests and waiting for the right moment to approach Amanda. As she sipped her drink, she saw Amanda enter the room, her presence commanding attention. Lara's heart raced, but she steadied herself, ready for the confrontation. She made her way through the crowd, finally reaching Amanda. "Amanda Miller," Lara said, her voice calm but firm. Amanda turned, her eyes widening slightly in recognition. "Lara Lawson," she replied, her tone cool. "I heard you were back in town. What brings you here tonight?" Lara smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "I'm here to talk about your business practices, Amanda. It seems that some of your deals are raising eyebrows, and not in a good way." Amanda's expression hardened. "I don't know what you're talking about, Lara. My business is perfectly legitimate." "Is it?" Lara said, stepping closer. "Because I've seen the records, the backdoor deals, the bribes, the manipulation. You're continuing Caldwell's legacy of corruption, and it needs to stop." Amanda glanced around, noticing that some of the guests were now watching their exchange. She leaned in, her voice a low hiss. "You don't know what you're getting into, Lara. This town runs on those deals. Disrupting them will cause more harm than good." Lara didn't back down. "No, Amanda. What's harmful is letting corruption continue unchecked. This town deserves better. It deserves honesty and integrity." Amanda's eyes flashed with anger. "You think you can waltz back into Willow Creek and play hero? You're out of your depth, Lara. People won't side with you once they see the chaos you're causing." Lara met her gaze, unflinching. "I'm not here to cause chaos, Amanda. I'm here to clean it up, and I won't stop until every corrupt player is brought to justice." The tension between them was palpable. Guests nearby tried to pretend they weren't listening, but it was clear that many were captivated by the unfolding drama. Amanda straightened, trying to regain her composure. "This isn't over, Lara," she said, turning to walk away. Lara watched her go, feeling a mixture of adrenaline and resolve. She knew Amanda wouldn't back down easily, but neither would she. The first confrontation had been just that, the first. There would be more battles to come, and Lara was ready for them. As the night went on, Lara continued to network, speaking with other guests and subtly gathering more information. The confrontation with Amanda had been a statement of intent, and word of it spread quickly among the attendees. By the end of the evening, Lara had made it clear that she was a force to be reckoned with, someone who would not be intimidated or silenced. When she finally left the gala, the cool night air filled her lungs with a sense of renewed purpose. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but Lara knew she was on the right track. She had confronted one of the town's key figures, and it had only strengthened her resolve to see her mission through. Lara walked to her car, the events of the evening playing over in her mind. She was no longer the bullied girl from high school. She was a lawyer, a fighter, and a beacon of hope for those who believed in justice. And she was just getting started. Lara Lawson's confrontation with Amanda Miller had set the stage for the next phase of her plan. She knew that taking down Amanda and the remaining corrupt elements in Willow Creek would require more than just public confrontations. It would require a carefully crafted legal strategy. Lara was ready to lay the trap. She began by scrutinizing every aspect of Amanda's business dealings. Late nights were spent in her office, surrounded by piles of documents and spreadsheets. Lara's legal expertise allowed her to identify patterns of fraud and embezzlement that others might have missed. Her meticulous nature and relentless pursuit of justice fueled her through the long hours. One morning, while sifting through financial records, Lara discovered a series of shell companies linked to Amanda. These companies were being used to funnel money and launder illicit profits. It was a complex network, but Lara's sharp mind pieced it together. She knew she needed concrete evidence to bring this to court. Lara reached out to Daniel, the former town accountant who had helped her before. She explained her findings and asked for his assistance. "We need someone on the inside, someone who can get us the documents we can't access publicly," she said. Daniel hesitated but agreed, understanding the importance of their mission. With Daniel's help, Lara obtained crucial documents that provided undeniable proof of Amanda's illegal activities. She compiled the evidence into a comprehensive report, meticulously detailing each transaction and fraudulent activity. It was a smoking gun, but Lara knew it needed to be airtight. She enlisted the help of a forensic accountant, Dr. Rachel Carter, to verify the findings and ensure there were no gaps in the evidence. Dr. Carter's reputation for integrity and thoroughness was well known, and her involvement added credibility to the case. "This is solid, Lara," Dr. Carter said after reviewing the documents. "You've done an impressive job." With the evidence secured, Lara drafted a detailed legal strategy. She prepared to file charges not only against Amanda but also against several of her associates who were complicit in the corruption. The legal trap was set, and it was time to spring it. Lara scheduled a meeting with the district attorney, presenting the case with confidence and precision. The district attorney, impressed by the thoroughness of her work, agreed to pursue the charges. "This could be a landmark case for Willow Creek," he said. "You've done a tremendous service to this town, Lara." The news of the impending charges spread quickly. Amanda and her associates were served with subpoenas, and the town buzzed with anticipation. The trial was set to be one of the most significant in Willow Creek's history. On the first day of the trial, the courtroom was packed. Lara sat at the prosecution's table, her nerves steady but her mind sharp. Amanda, flanked by a team of high-priced lawyers, glared at Lara from across the room. The tension was palpable. Lara's opening statement was powerful and direct. She laid out the case clearly, highlighting the evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and corruption. She emphasized the impact of these crimes on the community, painting a vivid picture of the harm caused by Amanda's greed. The jury listened intently, their expressions serious and focused. As the trial progressed, Lara called witness after witness to the stand. Daniel testified about the pressure he faced to falsify records, his voice steady and resolute. Dr. Carter explained the forensic accounting in clear, understandable terms, breaking down the complex financial schemes for the jury. Each piece of evidence was presented meticulously, leaving little room for doubt. Amanda's defense team tried to discredit the witnesses and poke holes in the evidence, but Lara was prepared for every tactic. She cross-examined their witnesses with precision, exposing inconsistencies and lies. Her confidence and command of the courtroom were evident, earning respect from the jury and spectators alike. The climax of the trial came when Lara presented the final piece of evidence, a recorded conversation between Amanda and one of her associates, discussing their fraudulent activities. The recording had been obtained legally, with Daniel's help, and it was damning. The courtroom fell silent as the jury listened, the gravity of Amanda's crimes laid bare. In her closing argument, Lara appealed to the jury's sense of justice. Amanda Miller's actions have not only violated the law but have also betrayed the trust of this community. It's time to hold her accountable and send a message that Willow Creek will no longer tolerate corruption. The jury deliberated for several hours, but to Lara, it felt like an eternity. Finally, they returned with a verdict, guilty on all counts. A wave of relief and triumph washed over Lara as the judge pronounced the sentence. Amanda and her associates would face significant prison time, and their assets would be seized to compensate the town for the losses incurred. As Lara left the courtroom, the townspeople erupted in applause. She had not only brought justice to Amanda, but had also restored hope to Willow Creek. The legal trap had worked, and the town was on a path to healing and rebuilding. Lara's victory was more than just a personal achievement. It was a testament to her dedication and the power of perseverance. She had faced her past, confronted corruption head-on, and emerged victorious. And as she looked ahead, she knew that her fight for justice was far from over. After her resounding victory in court, Lara Lawson felt a sense of accomplishment, but it was quickly overshadowed by an internal struggle. She had dedicated herself to justice, yet the path she had chosen was fraught with moral dilemmas that gnawed at her conscience. As she navigated her newfound role as the town's champion, she found herself questioning the very nature of justice and the cost of achieving it. One evening, Lara sat in her office, the dim light casting long shadows across the room. Her desk was cluttered with case files and legal texts, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The trial had been a victory, yes, but it had also exposed the dark underbelly of power and corruption that still lingered in Willow Creek. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Rachel, a young woman whose father had been a minor player in Amanda Miller's network. Rachel had reached out to Lara, desperate for help. Her father was facing charges, and while his involvement was minimal, the legal repercussions were severe. Rachel pleaded with Lara to show leniency. "Please, Ms. Lawson," Rachel said, her voice trembling. "My father was just trying to keep his job. He didn't have a choice." Lara felt a pang of empathy. She knew that not everyone involved in the corruption had been a willing participant. Many were coerced, trapped by circumstances beyond their control. But the law was clear, and justice had to be served. Lara promised to review the case, but Rachel's words lingered in her mind long after she had left. As Lara delved into the details of Rachel's father's case, she found herself torn. The man had indeed played a minor role, and while he was culpable, he was also a victim of a larger, more insidious system. Lara struggled with the decision. Should she push for the full extent of the law, or should she advocate for mercy, recognizing the man's limited involvement and the pressures he had faced? Lara sought advice from her mentor, Evelyn Marshall. They met at a quiet cafe, where Lara poured out her concerns. "Evelyn, I'm wrestling with this case. Rachel's father is guilty, but his role was minor. I don't want to be unjust in my pursuit of justice." Evelyn listened intently, her expression thoughtful. "Lara, the law is a tool for justice, but it's not always black and white. You have to weigh the facts, the context, and your own moral compass. Sometimes, showing mercy is a greater form of justice." Lara nodded, absorbing Evelyn's words. She realized that her pursuit of justice didn't have to be rigid. There was room for compassion and understanding. With renewed clarity, Lara decided to argue for a reduced sentence for Rachel's father, focusing on rehabilitation rather than punishment. The case went to court, and Lara presented her argument with conviction. She detailed the man's coerced involvement, highlighting his otherwise clean record and the positive steps he had taken since the investigation began. The judge, moved by Lara's plea, handed down a lenient sentence, emphasizing community service and restitution over incarceration. Rachel thanked Lara profusely, tears of relief streaming down her face. "You've given my family a second chance. I don't know how to thank you." Lara smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in months. "Sometimes, justice is about finding the right balance," she said. "Your father deserves the chance to make amends." Despite this resolution, Lara's journey through moral dilemmas was far from over. She continued to encounter cases that challenged her beliefs and forced her to confront the complexities of justice. She worked tirelessly, but the weight of her decisions often kept her awake at night. One particularly difficult case involved a young man named Kevin, who had been manipulated into committing a crime by a gang that preyed on vulnerable youth. Lara knew that prosecuting Kevin to the fullest extent would likely ruin his life, but ignoring his actions wasn't an option either. She decided to pursue a diversion program, advocating for counseling and mentorship instead of prison time. It was a hard-fought battle, but in the end, the judge agreed with Lara's approach. Kevin's case became a turning point for Lara. She realized that justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about healing and transformation. She began to see her role not just as a prosecutor, but as a guide, helping people find their way back to a righteous path. Lara's moral dilemmas taught her invaluable lessons about empathy, mercy, and the true essence of justice. She learned to navigate the gray areas, understanding that every case was unique and required a thoughtful, nuanced approach. Her work became a delicate balance between enforcing the law and nurturing the human spirit. Through it all, Lara remained steadfast in her mission. She continued to fight for what was right, but with a deeper understanding of the human condition. The challenges she faced only strengthened her resolve, and she emerged as a wiser, more compassionate advocate. Lara Lawson's journey was far from easy, but it was the moral dilemmas that shaped her into the lawyer and person she was meant to be. She embraced the complexities of justice, knowing that true righteousness required both strength and compassion. And as she looked ahead, she knew that she was ready to face whatever challenges lay in her path, armed with the lessons she had learned and a heart full of determination. In the aftermath of the trials and moral dilemmas she had faced, Lara Lawson found herself at a crossroads. The victory against corruption in Willow Creek had been significant, but she knew there were still many battles ahead. Just when she thought she had seen it all, fate threw her an unexpected curveball, an alliance with someone from her past. One rainy afternoon, as Lara was organizing her files in her office, she received a call. The voice on the other end was familiar but unexpected. "Lara, it's Emily. We need to talk." Emily had been one of Lara's few friends during the dark days of high school, but they had drifted apart over the years. Emily was now a journalist for a major news outlet, known for her investigative reporting. Lara agreed to meet her at a local cafe, curiosity and nostalgia mingling in her mind. When Lara arrived, she saw Emily sitting at a corner table, her eyes scanning the room. As soon as she spotted Lara, she stood up and hugged her. "It's been too long," Emily said, a genuine smile on her face. They sat down, ordered coffee, and caught up on each other's lives. But soon, the conversation turned serious. "Lara, I've been investigating something big," Emily said, leaning in. "There's a deeper network of corruption that goes beyond Willow Creek, statewide, maybe even national, and I need your help to expose it." Lara's interest was piqued. "Tell me more," she said, her lawyer's instincts kicking in. Emily pulled out a folder from her bag, filled with documents and photos. "I've been tracking these transactions and connections for months. It's a complex web involving politicians, business leaders, and even law enforcement. I can't do this alone. I need someone with your legal expertise to help build a case." Lara studied the documents, her mind racing. The scale of the corruption was staggering, but so was the risk. "Emily, this is huge. If we go after these people, we're putting ourselves in serious danger." Emily nodded, her expression determined. "I know, but it's worth it. These people have been operating with impunity for too long. We have to take them down." Lara felt a surge of resolve. She had faced danger before, and she wasn't about to back down now. "All right, I'm in. But we need to be careful. We can't afford any mistakes." Over the next few weeks, Lara and Emily worked tirelessly, their skills complementing each other perfectly. Emily's investigative prowess and Lara's legal acumen proved to be a formidable combination. They met in secret, piecing together the evidence and building a case that could withstand the scrutiny of the courts. As they delved deeper, they uncovered shocking revelations. High-ranking officials were involved in bribery, money laundering, and even human trafficking. The network was vast and powerful, but Lara and Emily were relentless. They reached out to trusted allies, lawyers, activists, and journalists, who could help them in their mission. One night, while they were reviewing documents in Emily's apartment, they received a knock on the door. It was Jessica, the very person who had tormented Lara in high school. Lara's initial reaction was one of shock and anger. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Jessica looked different, older, worn, and remorseful. "I heard what you're doing," she said quietly. "I want to help." Lara was incredulous. "Why would you want to help us? After everything you did?" Jessica sighed, her eyes filled with regret. "I know I don't deserve your trust, but I've changed. I got involved with these people, and I've seen things I can't ignore. I want to make things right." Emily looked at Lara, a question in her eyes. Lara hesitated, torn between her memories of Jessica's cruelty and the potential value of her inside information. Finally, she nodded. "All right, Jessica, but if you're lying or trying to sabotage us, you'll regret it." Jessica nodded, her expression earnest. "I understand. I just want to help take them down." With Jessica's insider knowledge, their investigation gained new momentum. She provided crucial information about key players and their operations, allowing Lara and Emily to tighten the noose around the corrupt network. They took precautions to protect themselves, knowing that their enemies wouldn't hesitate to silence them. The climax of their efforts came when they gathered enough evidence to present their case to a federal prosecutor. The evidence was overwhelming, and the prosecutor agreed to take it forward. A series of coordinated raids and arrests followed, shaking the foundations of the corrupt network. Lara, Emily, and Jessica watched as the news broke, feeling a mix of relief and triumph. They had done it. They had exposed the corruption and brought the perpetrators to justice. For Lara, it was a vindication of everything she had fought for. For Emily, it was a testament to the power of journalism. And for Jessica, it was a step towards redemption. As they stood together, looking out at the city skyline, Lara realized that alliances could come from the most unexpected places. The journey had been fraught with danger and moral dilemmas, but they had emerged stronger and more united. And as they faced the future, they knew that they could take on whatever challenges lay ahead, together. The exposure of the statewide corruption network had sent shockwaves through the media and political landscape, but Lara Lawson and Emily knew there was still one more crucial step to ensure justice was served: the grand exposure. They needed to present their findings to the public in a way that would leave no room for doubt and spark widespread outrage. The day of the grand exposure arrived, and the town hall of Willow Creek was filled to capacity. Reporters from major news outlets, townspeople, and even state officials crowded the room. Lara and Emily stood side by side at the podium, their expressions resolute. Jessica was there too, a reminder of how unexpected allies had strengthened their mission. Lara took a deep breath and began. "Thank you all for coming. Today, we reveal the truth about a network of corruption that has infiltrated our state. This isn't just about illegal activities. It's about betrayal, greed, and a blatant disregard for justice." Emily stepped forward, holding a remote. She clicked it, and the large screen behind them lit up with a web of connections, names, and faces. "What you see here," she said, "is a detailed map of the individuals and organizations involved in this corrupt network. Each connection represents a crime: bribery, embezzlement, human trafficking, and more." The room fell silent as Emily and Lara presented their case. They had meticulously organized the evidence into a compelling narrative. Financial records, emails, recorded conversations, and witness testimonies were laid out in a clear, undeniable manner. Each piece of evidence built upon the last, painting a picture of systemic corruption that reached the highest levels of power. Jessica took the podium next. Her voice shook slightly, but she spoke with conviction. "I was part of this system. I saw firsthand the damage it caused. I'm here to make amends and to ensure that those responsible are held accountable." As the presentation continued, the atmosphere in the room grew tense. Gasps and murmurs spread through the audience as the extent of the corruption became clear. Lara and Emily had left no stone unturned, and the sheer magnitude of the revelations was staggering. The climax of the presentation came when they played a video of a secret meeting between key conspirators. In the grainy footage, high-ranking officials discussed their plans with chilling nonchalance, laughing about their manipulation of public funds and the people they had harmed. The room erupted in outrage. Reporters furiously scribbled notes, and cameras flashed. Lara raised her hand, calling for silence. "This is the reality we face. These people have abused their power for personal gain, leaving a trail of victims in their wake. But today, we stand together to say enough is enough. Justice will be served." As the presentation concluded, the district attorney took the stage. "Based on the evidence presented here today, we will be pursuing charges against all individuals involved in this network. This will be a landmark case in our fight against corruption, and I want to thank Ms. Lawson, Ms. Emily, and Ms. Jessica for their tireless efforts." The audience erupted in applause, but Lara felt a mixture of relief and determination. This was a significant victory, but it was also a reminder of the work that still needed to be done. In the days that followed, the grand exposure dominated headlines. Arrests were made, and investigations were launched. Lara, Emily, and Jessica became symbols of courage and integrity. Their story inspired others to come forward with their own accounts of corruption and injustice. Lara continued her work, now more committed than ever to fighting for justice. The grand exposure had shown her the power of truth and and the importance of standing up against wrongdoing, no matter the cost. She knew that the battle against corruption was ongoing, but she also knew that she was not alone. With allies like Emily and Jessica by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. One evening, as Lara walked through Willow Creek, she felt a sense of peace. The town was healing slowly but surely. People approached her, thanking her for her bravery and dedication. She smiled, knowing that their gratitude was a testament to the impact of their work. Lara's journey had been long and arduous, filled with trials and triumphs. The grand exposure was a pinnacle moment, a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of seeking justice. As she looked towards the future, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The fight was far from over, but she was ready to continue, fueled by the belief that one person could indeed make a difference. The grand exposure had set a powerful precedent, but for Lara Lawson, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. She realized that justice was not just about punishing the guilty. It was about healing, rebuilding, and creating a system that truly served the people. With this in mind, she set out to redefine justice in Willow Creek. Lara decided to establish a community legal aid center. The center would provide free legal services to those who couldn't afford them, ensuring that everyone had access to justice, regardless of their financial situation. She envisioned a place where victims of corruption, abuse, and injustice could find support and guidance. The grand opening of the Willow Creek Community Legal Aid Center was a momentous occasion. The town gathered to celebrate, and Lara stood before the crowd, her heart swelling with pride and hope. "Today, we take a step towards a better future," she said. "This center is not just a building. It's a promise that we will fight for justice and equality for all." The center quickly became a beacon of hope. People from all walks of life came seeking help. There was Maria, a single mother fighting an unfair eviction; James, a young man wrongfully accused of a crime; and Linda, an elderly woman whose pension had been siphoned off by fraudulent schemes. Each case was unique, but the common thread was the need for justice. Lara threw herself into the work with renewed vigor. She trained a team of dedicated lawyers, paralegals, and volunteers who shared her vision. Together, they tackled cases big and small, often working late into the night. The victories, no matter how small, were celebrated as steps towards a fairer system. One day, a familiar face walked into the center. It was Rachel, the young woman whose father Lara had helped during the trials. Rachel had been inspired by Lara's work and wanted to volunteer at the center. "I want to give back," she said, her eyes shining with determination. "You showed me that justice is possible. I want to help others the way you helped my family." Rachel's presence was a reminder of the ripple effect of justice. Every person they helped became a part of the movement, spreading the message that justice was not just an abstract concept but a tangible force for good. Lara mentored Rachel, teaching her the intricacies of legal work and the importance of empathy and compassion. The center also became a hub for community education. Lara organized workshops and seminars on legal rights, financial literacy, and civic engagement. She wanted to empower the community, giving them the tools to fight for themselves and their neighbors. The response was overwhelming, with people eager to learn and take control of their futures. One evening, after a long day at the center, Lara sat in her office, reflecting on the journey. The walls were adorned with thank you notes and drawings from children whose families she had helped. Each one was a testament to the impact they were making. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that they were creating lasting change. Despite the progress, Lara knew there were still challenges ahead. The fight for justice was ongoing, and there would always be new obstacles to overcome. But she was ready, fortified by the knowledge that she was not alone. The community had rallied around the center, and together, they were building something extraordinary. Lara's work began to attract attention beyond Willow Creek. She was invited to speak at conferences and universities, sharing her experiences and inspiring others to take up the mantle of justice. Her story resonated with people everywhere, showing them that one person's dedication could indeed spark a movement. In one of her speeches, Lara said, "Justice is not a destination. It's a journey. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. It's about believing in the power of community and the strength of our collective voices. Together, we can create a world where justice is not a privilege but a fundamental right for all." As the years passed, the Willow Creek Community Legal Aid Center continued to grow, touching more lives and spreading its message of hope and resilience. Lara's vision had become a reality, and it was changing the world, one case at a time. Lara Lawson had redefined justice, not just in Willow Creek but beyond. Her journey was a testament to the power of perseverance, compassion, and unwavering dedication. And as she looked towards the future, she knew that the fight for justice would continue, driven by the belief that every person deserved to be heard, protected, and empowered. Lara Lawson's journey had been long and arduous, marked by battles won and lives transformed. But as she stood on the precipice of a new chapter, she realized that her mission was far from over. The Willow Creek Community Legal Aid Center had become a beacon of hope, but Lara knew she could do more. It was time to take her fight for justice to a broader stage. One morning, as she was reviewing cases in her office, Lara received a call that would change everything. It was from the governor's office. They had been following her work and wanted to offer her a position on a newly formed task force aimed at combating statewide corruption and advocating for legal reforms. Lara's heart raced with excitement and trepidation. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. She accepted the position and soon found herself in the state capitol, surrounded by influential leaders and policymakers. The task force was a diverse group, united by a common goal: to root out corruption and create a more just and transparent legal system. Lara's experience and passion made her a natural leader within the group, and she quickly earned the respect of her peers. The work was intense and challenging, but Lara thrived in this new environment. She spearheaded initiatives to reform outdated laws, improve access to legal resources for underprivileged communities, and implement stricter oversight of public officials. Her efforts garnered national attention, and she was invited to speak at conferences and universities across the country. One of her most significant achievements was the passage of the Fair Justice Act, a comprehensive piece of legislation that addressed many of the systemic issues she had encountered in her career. The act included provisions for protecting whistleblowers, increasing transparency in government dealings, and ensuring that legal aid was available to all who needed it. The passage of the act was a monumental victory, and Lara's role in its creation was widely celebrated. Despite her success, Lara never forgot her roots. She frequently returned to Willow Creek, where the Legal Aid Center continued to thrive under the leadership of her trusted colleagues. Each visit was a reminder of why she had started this journey: to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves and to create a world where justice was accessible to all. During one of these visits, she attended a community meeting at the center. The room was filled with familiar faces, people whose lives had been touched by her work. Rachel, now a full-fledged lawyer at the center, stood up to speak. "Lara, you've been an inspiration to all of us. Your dedication to justice has changed this community, and we're all better for it." Lara felt a surge of pride and gratitude. "Thank you, Rachel. But this has always been a team effort. Each one of you has played a crucial role in this journey, and together, we've made a difference." As the meeting concluded, Lara stepped outside, taking a moment to reflect. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over Willow Creek. She thought about the people she had helped, the battles she had fought, and the lessons she had learned. Her journey had been about more than just seeking justice. It had been about finding her purpose. Lara's work with the task force continued to evolve. She launched educational programs to teach young people about their rights and how to advocate for themselves. She collaborated with other states to share best practices and create a unified front against corruption. Her influence extended far beyond Willow Creek, and her vision of justice began to take root in communities across the nation. One evening, as she was preparing for another speaking engagement, Lara received a letter. It was from a young woman named Mia, who had been inspired by Lara's story to pursue a career in law. "Your journey has shown me that one person can make a difference," Mia wrote. "I hope to follow in your footsteps and continue the fight for justice." Tears filled Lara's eyes as she read the letter. She realized that her impact was not just measured in the cases she had won or the laws she had helped pass, but in the lives she had touched and the future leaders she had inspired. Lara stood at the podium that night, looking out at the audience. She began her speech with a sense of purpose that had been honed through years of dedication and hard work. "Justice is a journey, not a destination. It's a path we walk together, each step bringing us closer to a world where everyone's voice is heard and everyone's rights are protected. Together, we can create that world." As she spoke, Lara felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Her journey had come full circle, from a bullied teenager to a powerful advocate for justice. And while her work was far from finished, she knew that she had found her true calling. She was not just a lawyer or a leader. She was a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience, and a testament to the power of perseverance. Lara Lawson's story was one of transformation, determination, and unwavering commitment to justice. Her legacy would continue to inspire and guide those who followed, proving that with courage and compassion, anyone could make a difference. And as she looked toward the future, Lara knew that her journey was only just beginning.